Welcome to Frankly Speaking. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A little bit later on in the program, we'll be talking with Buddy Cutler and Stu Sammis of the Rotary Club of Corning. They have an upcoming Groundhog Day Pancake Supper on Thursday, February 1st from 4 to 7 at the American Legion. We're going to hear all about that coming up in just a little bit. Of course, by now, you've heard the unsettling news about the Iran-backed militia attack. 34, as of this morning or late last night, 34 U.S. service members were injured and 8 were forced to evacuate from Jordan because of those injuries. And of course, tragically, 3 U.S. service members were killed. By late Sunday, the number of injured had climbed to 34 service members. This includes at least 8 personnel whose injuries warranted an evacuation from Jordan to higher level care, though they were believed to be in stable condition. Fox News is told all service members are being fully evaluated for follow-up care. The number of injured was expected to fluctuate. The injuries mostly include traumatic brain injury, though the number of cases will likely go up as symptoms can take time to develop. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said, "The President and I will not tolerate attacks on American forces, and we will take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our troops, and our interests." Biden said that the attack was despicable and wholly unjust and warned, "We shall respond." Thank you so much for all the virtual waves. By the way, weigh in on this or any of the topics we'll be discussing this morning. You see the number on the bottom of your screen. I would love to hear from you. I do not know what is going to be done. Many GOP are calling for Biden to retaliate, to target Iran directly over these soldiers' deaths. Mitch McConnell, in a Senate floor speech on Thursday, accused Biden of playing whack-a-mole against warehouses and launch sites until Iran feels that its own interest and its own IRGC officers across the region are threatened. Attacks on U.S. forces will continue. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell called for serious crippling costs to Iran, not only on frontline terrorist proxies, but on their Iranian sponsors who wear American blood as a badge of honor. Lindsey Graham, who is kind of notoriously, maybe the wrong word, let's just say historically has been more of a hawk. He said in a statement the attacks on the U.S. were carried out on Iranian proxies outside Iran will not deter Iranian aggression, calling to, quote, strike targets of significance inside Iran. Representative Don Bacon, a senior member of the House Armed Services Committee and former Air Force Brigadier General, said the head of the snake is Iran. Bacon noted that the administration, quote, keeps conducting strikes on the proxy forces that are armed and often directed by Iran, but Iran could care less if we attack the proxy forces. We should find smart Iranian targets that are low risk of our aircraft getting shot down and teach Iran a lesson. Now, former President Trump weighed in on this, CNN and others in the media criticizing him for weighing in, saying that he's trying to politicize the attacks for his campaign. We'll talk about that in just a moment. There is a piece out of the Mirror, out of the United Kingdom, saying Biden giving chilling nuclear warning over attacking Iran after kamikaze drone kills troops. U.S. President Joe Biden has been given a chilling nuclear warning over attacking Iran after 3 U.S. soldiers were killed by kamikaze drones. Ex-UN weapons inspector David Albright said the rogue state could be led into thinking that building nuclear warheads is their, quote, best way out if they are directly targeted by the U.S. in retaliation for the deaths. U.S. Central Command confirmed the killing today and said a further 25, and now we know it's up to 32 were injured, or 34, excuse me. Mr. Albright, who said, who would have used a kamikaze drone, President Biden said the U.S. would hold all those responsible to account at a time and in a manner of our choosing. Mr. Albright, who has previously claimed that Iran is just 5 months away from building 12 nuclear weapons, agreed it was important that the U.S. sent a clear message by targeting the militants who were responsible for the killing, but he urged Biden not to launch any direct strikes on Iran to avert a wider conflict amid heightened tensions. We're going to talk more about this. Please weigh in on it. Obviously troubling this morning. There's a couple of pieces, one by John Bolton that we might get to just quickly. And we're going to move away from this. There's other topics to discuss this morning as well. I just wanted to kind of give you an update on that story. But let's take our first break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. In just a moment, we're going to talk with Buddy Cutler and Stu Sammis from the Rotary Club of Corning about their Groundhog Day pancake supper on Thursday, February 1st from 4 to 7 p.m. John Bolton has a piece that says, as Iran-backed militias attack Americans, Biden tries to save Tehran terrorists. Many words describe Biden's Iran policy: craven, weak, embarrassing. Some readily come to mind. But there are no words, this again, John Bolton, or as Dennis Miller used to call him, the nuclear walrus. But there are no words to describe adequately the recent White House decision, first reported by the Wall Street Journal, to warn Tehran about a possible terrorist attack. Sunday's serious American casualties in Jordan at the hands of the Iran-backed militia tragically underscore Biden's folly. Anonymous administration sources justified sharing sharing intelligence with a U.S. enemy by citing a, quote, duty to warn policy applicable to both citizens and non-citizens. Although the Journal story mentions exceptions to this policy, its administration sources were less than candid. So you can find that whole piece at the New York Post this morning by John Bolton. Also, there's a piece by Richard Goldberg that says President Joe Biden's got blood on his hands after appeasing Iran for years. Wow, Richard Goldberg using tough language there. Again, at the New York Post. I don't want to spend all our time on this because we do have our guests. But how many more Americans must die before the commander-in-chief stops appeasing the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, said Richard Goldberg, a senior advisor at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Now, the GOP is demanding that Biden retaliate. Lindsey Graham, who I mentioned earlier, historically a hawk. I mean, I think that's fair to say. I'm not saying anything out of school. Said, hit Iran now, hit them hard. When the Biden administration says don't, the Iranians do. The Biden administration's rhetoric is falling on deaf ears in Iran. Iran is undeterred. The only thing the Iranian regime understands is force. Until they pay a price with their infrastructure and their personnel, the attacks on U.S. troops will continue. Now, again, the president did say we shall respond. We had a tough day in the Middle East. We lost 3 brave souls, Biden said, and asking for a moment of silence. Tom Cotton said Joe Biden emboldens Iran for years by tolerating attacks on our troops, bribing the Ayatollahs with billions of dollars, and appeasing them to no end. He left our troops as sitting ducks. The only answer to these attacks must be devastating military retaliation against Iran's terrorist forces, both in Iran and across the Middle East. Anything less will confirm Joe Biden, wow, listen to this, as a coward unworthy of being commander-in-chief. House Speaker Mike Johnson said, we are saddened by the loss of 3 American heroes in Jordan last night, and we are praying for their families and for the 25 other service members who have been injured. America must send a crystal clear message across the globe that attacks on our troops will not be tolerated. Trump, former President Trump, saying the drone attacks on a U.S. military installation in Jordan, killing 3 American service members and wounding many more, marks a horrible day for America. My most profound sympathies go to the families of the brave service members we have lost. I ask all Americans to join me in praying for those who have been wounded. This brazen attack on the United States is yet another horrific and tragic consequence of Joe Biden's weakness and surrender. This attack would never have happened if I were president. Not even a chance. Just like the Iranian-backed Hamas attack on Israel would never have happened. The war in Ukraine would never have happened. And we would right now have peace throughout the world. Instead, we are on the brink of World War III. This terrible day is yet more proof that we need an immediate return to peace through strength, so that there will be no more chaos, no more destruction, and no more loss of precious American lives. Our country cannot survive with Joe Biden as commander-in-chief. So that's former President Donald Trump. Stephen Collinson said it was too far, saying Trump seizes on U.S. troops killed in border crisis to sell general election message, as if historically that is not the case with people running for office. Okay, we've got to take a short break. When we come back, we will hear from Buddy Cutler and Stu Sammis from the Rotary Club of Corning. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And joining me are representatives of the Rotary Club of Corning. Guys, thanks so much for being on the program.
Thanks for letting us be here.
Of course, because you have the big annual Groundhog Day Pancake Supper. First of all, how many years has this been going on?
7 years.
Yeah, 7 years. Wow. Because I remember when you first started promoting it, and this has only grown through the years. Yeah. Well, except for the infamous COVID year that we always have to talk about, or COVID years. So tell us a little bit about the Pancake Supper for those who have not attended before.
So 7 years ago, I was the president of Rotary. We needed a fundraiser, and this was something that was easy to put together, and didn't have to get a lot of approval from the board, didn't have to spend a lot of money, and we've kind of been doing it ever since. We started out just having the club's members give us ideas where they want to spend the money, and we'd raise the money, we'd give to everybody. This year, though, we're doing it for the scholarship committee for the Rotary, to give money to kids to go to college.
That's great. And that's what I want to talk about, because it really does go to benefit so many people, and also you get a good meal out of it. So there's no losers in this scenario.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as I like to say, the meal is, pancakes, fried potatoes, and groundhog sausage.
Well, it is
to groundhog.
Oh, gotcha. Now, where's it located? Where do you hold it?
Corning American Legion.
Yep.
Oh, right, the American Legion. So they do all the kind of the prep and all that, or is it the Rotary?
Bob Perkins is a real good friend of ours. He kind of runs our kitchen there. He's a caterer. He's a great guy. If without Bob, we couldn't do this thing. He gets it all put together for us. The food, helps us cook it, helps us start the pancakes, the whole 9 yards. And shout out to the Legion, because they really helped us out over the last 7 years, giving us pretty much free rent for the building.
Yeah, and it's a great location.
Right, and they supported us too. A lot of the Legion people come and have pancakes.
That's the best part, right?
And we support the Legion too, and that the bar's open.
Right. Well, you don't think of pancakes and a beer, but it sounds pretty good.
But there's soft drinks.
Right. No, right. Okay, I shouldn't have went that direction. You're right.
When we had the potato pancake events for the Ukraine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now
that's a different story.
But so Bob Perkins does a lot of the prep. He does all the buying and everything. And then Buddy and I show up, and we're the head pancakes flippers at the beginning.
Kind of like the figureheads.
Yeah, ceremonial.
And we spend the first hour and a half baking pancakes.
Oh, wow.
We're getting a backlog.
That's when the expert has to step up. How long does planning go into this? Does it become easier through the years?
I think so.
Yeah.
The only problem we're having is we really need to do a better job promoting, and thank you very much
of course.
For here today.
Anytime.
Because we need people to come. We've got we used to have 120 members in Rotary. What are we down to now?
75.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
So we went from a $2,400 potential just from Rotary members to $1,500.
Yeah.
So we need people to. That's the only thing we're having trouble with, is getting PR out there.
Of course.
Everybody know we come there, spend your $10, help out a good cause.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing we're having trouble with. Putting the thing together is pretty easy now. Just Bob does all the work for us pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's amazing, because I talk to so many organizations on this program. It's the same thing. Even politicians, whoever I talk to, you can't get the word out anymore. It's so difficult. Where do you go? I mean, I guess social media, but you can get lost in there. That's for sure.
Yeah, and we have a great media team committee.
Yeah.
Laura Matson.
Of course.
Laura Matson Studios down the street here.
Yeah.
Shameless plug. Sorry. But she heads that up, and she does so much work for the club. And then Andy Rochester, good old Dr. Andy, he takes care of all the online stuff, and then we have Darren Strong, who does our social media.
Right.
Yeah,
so
he knows the social media.
We reach out, but you still have people, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
So we've got posters printed up that Laura designed for us and everything.
Well, for years, Kelly at Phillips Funeral Home and Carpenter's Funeral Home used to do our tickets for. I think may still be doing it. Gives us doing our tickets for free.
Sure.
Printing them and giving it. So we get a lot of help from a lot of different people.
Yeah. Well, it takes a lot of people to put something together like this.
It does, and we get our Interact kids, which is the high school Rotary Club, and they show up. They have a great time, and it's a great bunch of kids. They're the ones that are at that program, the program up at CCC,
right?
And Ted Goldwyn coordinates that for us, and it's just great.
So, how long have you each been involved in the Rotary? Would you say?
I'm actually eligible to be senior retired. I started in 88 or 89.
Oh, wow.
Long time. But I didn't do much for a long time. There's a lot of 160 members way back when. I'm just a young kid. All the old guys ran the thing. It wasn't until about 10 years ago that I really got involved.
When you got to be the old guy.
Yeah. Actually do some stuff. So I've been in a long time, 30 plus years, I guess.
I joined in 2010.
Okay.
Retired, from Corning.
Yep.
Now I'm not working half days at Corning.
Right. Right.
Those that don't know, half day at Corning is 7 to 7. That's
exactly. But with and we're talking about the Groundhog Day Pancake Supper, which is obviously Thursday, February 1st. What time is that actually?
4 to 7.
4 to 7. So 4 to 7.
It's eat in, take out, and drive through.
Oh wow. So there's no excuse.
Right.
No
Yeah.
excuse.
Wow.
It's $10 for adults and $5 for kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great deal. That's a big meal. Pancakes are a filling meal.
Yep.
And what a perfect time of year to have this February 1st, Groundhog's Day. Just before we go, if we want to get involved in the Rotary, because you said this goes to the scholarship program, which is just amazing. If people aren't aware of how much you do for our community, it's really unfortunate if they're not aware. Is that exactly where the pancake goes to, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
This year.
This year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It changes throughout the
Yes.
year? Oh, okay. Boy, how many programs are you guys involved in when it comes to the community like that? Scholarship programs, things
I
like
did a list the other day.
No kidding.
And there's probably 15 that we can really pull. Anything from as simple as the Red Kettle Drive.
Yep, yeah, of
supporting the
course.
Red Kettle Drive, to our hopefully our upcoming international event in
Yep.
April, and then if all goes right, our Oktoberfest
Yeah.
in October.
And you'll have to keep us updated on both, of course.
They gave us the seed money for the community garden program.
Oh, yeah.
We run the spelling bee for upstate New York, basically.
Yeah.
So literacy in the classroom.
This program, this pancake supper, we've helped Meals on Wheels, Youth Center, Quilt Travailer,
Catholic Charities.
Catholic Charities,
Oh, wow.
Discovery and Science Discovery Center.
So,
we've done
Everybody.
Yeah, but not a lot of money. Unfortunately, if we raise $3,000 or $4,000, that's a lot. We try to give it all away.
Right.
We're hoping for 10. If everybody comes
Of
and
course.
has pancakes, we'll have a lot of money to give away, or a lot of money for scholarships this year.
Of
So
course.
it's all good.
So everybody go to the Pancake Supper. It is at the American Legion,
8 River Road.
8 River Road. Thank you. Thursday from 4 to 7, Thursday, February 1st. Before we go, how can we get involved in the Rotary if someone's watching right now and wants to become a member?
So you could just basically start coming to meetings, get online and see when the meetings are.
Okay.
Start coming to meetings or contact. There's contact information for the executive committee of the club, the board members. Get a hold of somebody. We'd love to have as many people as we can. Again, we started out when I was a kid, 160 members.
Yeah.
But Corning has gotten a little smaller, and
Of course.
things always kind of ebb and flow, and COVID hurt us real bad.
Yeah.
But we want to start growing again. So everybody's welcome.
Well, thanks so much, and best of luck with the pancake dinner. And as you said, that you're one of the flippers, so good luck. Stay safe.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks.
Yeah, all right.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate
Of course. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. Our beautiful view of Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. I am your host, Frank Acom, and this is Frankly Speaking. I'm Big Fox. You ever see these polls or these surveys that they probably spent a good amount of money on, and you wonder why even bother? I think it was well known that most Americans feel that they pay too much in taxes. A majority of taxpayers feel they pay too much in taxes, with many saying that they receive a poor value in return. That's according to a new poll from the University of Chicago Harris School of Public Policy and the Associated Press. 2/3 of U.S. taxpayers say they spent, quote, too much on federal income taxes as tax season begins. About 7 in 10 say that the same about local property taxes, while roughly 6 in 10 feel that way about state sales tax. Generally speaking, Republicans are more likely than Democrats to view taxes as unfair, to say they are paying too much in taxes, and to see taxes as a poor value. The poll found that few U.S. adults, have a high level of confidence that the institutions that ultimately use their tax dollars, whether the federal government or local school districts, spend those taxes in the interest of people like them. But people tend to trust governing bodies closer to home with their tax dollars slightly more. 16% are extremely or very confident in their local school district, compared to 6% for the federal government. Wow, 6%. Adults who are 60 and older are more likely than younger adults to perceive taxes generally as fair. One of the things you'll hear said is there's no Democrat or Republican way to collect the trash or pave the streets. We tend to think of local government as less partisan. Well, it is relatively less partisan. Speaking of the federal, let's talk about the presidential race. Of course, a lot going on over the weekend. Did you see that Judge Judy is out on the campaign trail with Nikki Haley? Cindy Adams from the New York Post reported on it, and she has like a very, we'll say, unique style of how she writes. But just know that Judge Judy is a big supporter of Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley has signaled that she's going to stay in through South Carolina as well. Now, a lot of people said that they don't, even donors of hers, don't see the upside of her going to South Carolina, because if she loses, there is a lot of downside. That's her home state. If she loses, that really hurts her potential for other office in the future, or maybe running. I mean, she's a younger person, maybe running again for president in the future. She says, according to Yahoo News, that she'll stay in the Republican race after South Carolina. I need to show that I'm building momentum. I need to show that I'm stronger in South Carolina than New Hampshire. Does that have to be a win? I don't think that necessarily has to be a win, but it certainly has to be better than I did in New Hampshire, and it certainly has to be close. So now signaling, that's interesting. Not that she's even going to win. She just needs to do better in South Carolina, her home state. Now, they asked Nikki Haley, has the RNC been an honest broker? She said, clearly not. If you're going to go and basically tell the American people that you're going to go and decide who the nominee is after only 2 states have voted, this is a democracy. The American people want to have their say in who is going to be their nominee. Yeah, I didn't really care for that idea much. I mentioned that on the program last week. I didn't think it had only been 2 states. Whatever you think about Nikki Haley staying in, she does have a right to do so. She does have good money. Last we heard, doing a good job fundraising. Now, we don't know if some of those fundraisers will go away, if some of that money will go away, now that she's lost twice. And boy, if she loses her home state, I just don't see. In the polls, she's down like 30% too. So I'm not really sure what she's thinking. I mean, if she doesn't want to drop out, she doesn't want to drop out. But that just is going to hurt in the future for whatever her, and I don't know what those are, what her goals and her dreams are in the future. But that can really hurt. Now, Joe Manchin, boy, the long nights are coming out for Joe Manchin. According to CNN, Joe Manchin could upend Biden's re-election campaign and blow up No Labels along the way. Now, if you're not familiar with this, No Labels is that group that was trying to get a third-party candidate, someone more moderate, or maybe a mixed ticket with a Democrat on top and a Republican as VP or vice versa. Joe Manchin says he, quote, absolutely can see himself as president. Privately, the West Virginia Democrat has told people that a Joe Biden health scare or a Donald Trump conviction could give him an opening to run as an independent this year. In public, during stops in states such as New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Georgia, Manchin says he believes there's a role for him as a national icon in the, quote, fiscally responsible and socially compassionate middle, comparable with the role Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders plays for the progressive left. If Manchin runs, he would want to do so using state ballot lines being secured by No Labels, a bipartisan group that has asserted itself as the answer for a political moment in which voters keep telling pollsters that they don't want a Biden-Trump rematch and are exhausted by the political tribalism. The group has set a mid-March deadline to decide whether to back a presidential, quote, unity ticket. And we talked about this extensively. We talked about it with former Congressman Tom Reed at one point, too, because he's a member of the No Labels group. But with about a month and a half to go and amid internal turmoil, multiple top No Labels leaders tell CNN they remain in the dark about the path forward. Meanwhile, 3 years of exhaustion at Manchin upending Biden's agenda has left the president and top aides keeping their distance, trying to sound out what he's up to, without risking riling him up by going to him directly. They hope Manchin will ultimately decide on his own against an independent run, but they know that a Democrat senator traveling the country warning that Biden has been pulled too far to the political left would be a problem, particularly as the president and his aides try to stitch back their 2020 coalition that ranged from Sanders supporters to anti-Trump Republicans. Manchin is hoping to get a meeting with Biden to urge the president to change the way he's campaigning. For example, to focus more on how inflation declined after the more fiscally constrained Inflation Reduction Act that he forced Biden to retake, or to talk less about climate change and more about energy security. It's kind of interesting, Joe Manchin's, I don't know if ego is the right word, but really thinks he's kind of a power player. Do you believe that? I mean, listen, he had a lot of power at one point. I don't see him being, as they put here, a national icon. I think you have to be pretty wonky into politics to even know about Manchin. But apparently no labels being left in the dark. Yes, they would have to work on this relatively soon. You would think a Manchin run would hurt Biden more than Trump, but maybe not. Joe Manchin considered a moderate in many ways. Gavin Newsom saying that Democrats should be worried about third-party candidates. Now, Gavin Newsom is kind of running his own secret presidential run. Well, not so secret, but of course saying that he's doing it all to support Joe Biden. John Carl asked him, how worried are you about a third party? There'll be multiple third-party candidates, so it doesn't take a lot. I know a third-party candidate isn't likely to be elected president or be either one, but I mean, how worried are you? Yeah, he said, I have to be. I'm worried. But you know what? You've got to control the controllables. Got to control what you have to control. Right now, it's getting the vote out. So Carl said, do you think it's a mistake then for Democrats to try to keep these third-party candidates, no labels, and others off the ballot? We're seeing an effort. He said, yeah, I think when you try to suppress choice and voice, it tends to backfire. Yeah, so I don't get consumed by that. I'm not here on the behalf of the Biden administration thinking about that. I'm a simple guy. And Carl interrupted, and then he said, but what I mean by this is I look at, for example, let's look at no labels. I took the time. I encourage people to talk, look up what they're for. And I thought, wow, this literally reads as the accomplishment list of the Biden-Harris administration. So they're a solution in search of a problem. I respectfully submit. A little tongue-tied this morning. So Newsom, many people thought he was going to run, or maybe he was waiting for something, kind of like a Nikki Haley, see if the former president, does get convicted, and she'll step right up and be right there. Same with Newsom. If there's maybe a health issue or something, heaven forbid, with Biden, that he would step right in. He also went on to say that Trump tried to wreck the country. He's lighting democracy on fire. Ooh, that's a new way of saying it. We know they're going to campaign on Trump being a threat to democracy. They've already done so. Newsom saying he's lighting democracy on fire. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all should be nervous about the election, like Michelle Obama said. Michelle Obama saying she's terrified. So they said, are you terrified? Yes, absolutely. I mean, all should be. We all should be. I mean, what more evidence do you need? I mean, here's a guy who lost the election, Trump, and tried to wreck the country. He's lighting democracy on fire. He's making democracy a partisan issue. I never imagined that in my lifetime. So the consequences are profound and pronounced. And that's why I'm down here, because this race has started, and we need to lift up the issues, the successes, the extraordinary successes of the last 3 years, the Biden-Harris administration, and then we drive contrast. It's not even a complicated campaign. We have the receipts. We have the best 3-year record of any modern American presidency, period, full stop. I hate that term so much. And you look at the issue by issue, they poll overwhelmingly. The American people support what Biden has done. We're going to talk a little bit more about Biden's campaign, a few things here about Trump as well. I would love to hear your opinion. What do you think about a third party? Now, there is, you do have Robert F. Kennedy Jr., you do have Jill Stein, if I'm not mistaken. So there are some already third parties, but maybe would Manchin do better than Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? That's an interesting mind game. What do you think? All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. Yep. Yeah. Ooh, I'm running late. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining us as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. I'm Frank Acom. This is Frankly Speaking on Big Fox. So this is interesting, and I want to pick your brain for a moment. Coming from NBC News. A first-of-its-kind campaign fundraiser is in the works, where it would be Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and, of course, Joe Biden. Now, the reason I think this is interesting, I thought, maybe last go-around it started to change, I thought Bill Clinton was not someone you wanted to fundraise with. When the Me Too movement began, there was a lot of pushback on him, and it seemed as if a lot of people were distancing themselves, like the Gillibrands of the world. The idea is for three former presidents, Democratic presidents that is, Biden, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama, to appear together at a fundraiser this spring. Discussions are underway to coordinate the president's schedules. These people said there's no date that has been set. The fundraiser would likely take place in March or April. Two of the sources familiar with the discussion said. Boy, that would bring in some money. But again, I thought many were steering clear of Bill Clinton at fundraisers. Apparently not. And we'll keep an eye on that because that would be an interesting, I guess, if nothing else, historic fundraiser. AOC was on Meet the Press this weekend. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was asked by Kristen Welker, I do want to ask you about the president's re-election campaign. As you know, in the key battleground states, he has real vulnerabilities. And why do you think he is struggling against Donald Trump, someone who has been indicted 4 times and is slapped with this $83 million civil suit? AOC said, quote, I think we could take a look at the overall landscape here. It's not just what we were talking about with President Biden, but also former President Trump has extraordinary vulnerabilities. We saw that in New Hampshire. The fact that he is a former sitting president, head of the party, and virtually everyone else has dropped out and endorsed him. And as we just saw, Nikki Haley came and she cleared about 43% in New Hampshire, which bodes very not well. That's a weird way of putting that. Bodes very not well for Donald Trump and his ability to win a general election. When it comes to President Biden, I think we need to focus and understand that young people are a very strong part of this electorate. We have a diverse coalition in the Democrat Party that has its own concerns, whether it's what's happening in Gaza or any other number of issues. But right now, I think November will be about the coalition we just put together and the policy progress we can make between now and then. Did you see the House has unveiled articles of impeachment against DHS Chief Mayorkas on the migrant surge, calling him utterly unfit? We're going to talk about that. Let me see, how am I doing? Yes. We'll talk about that when we come back because I don't want to run too far behind. We've got a lot to get to. Oh, one quick comment, completely changing it up from the campaign, but I wanted to mention it. Congressman Nick Langworthy sent this to us on Friday after the program. But he issued the following statement after President Biden's announcement that he'll be pausing all pending approval of liquefied natural gas exports. This again from Congressman Nick Langworthy. Quote, President Biden's decision to pause liquefied natural gas exports is a continuation of his America Last agenda to score points with the radical left at the expense of the American people. This decision will cripple our economy by killing good-paying jobs, driving up home energy costs for hardworking families, and hurting American businesses. It also risks our national security and empowers our adversaries like China, Russia, and Iran. The president cannot continue to push out-of-touch Green New Deal policies that prioritize his own political interests over the well-being of our nation. So that is Congressman Nick Langworthy. I just want to pass it along to you because I know we talk about energy so often on this program. By the way, thank you to everybody who's been reaching out, all these nice waves. You can always comment during the program or after the program, and we'll try to read what you have to say before the program's over or on tomorrow's show. Thank you again to Buddy Cutler and Stu Samus, who were on just a little bit before. If you missed them, the Rotary Club of Corning is holding their Groundhog Day Pancake Supper on Thursday, February 1st from 4 to 7 at the Corning American Legion. Okay, let's take another short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. So yes, House Republicans have announced 2 articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. This was yesterday, accusing him of failing to do his job by allowing thousands of asylum seekers to enter the country amid record-breaking illegal crossings. The articles accuse Mayorkas of willfully and systematic refusal to comply with the law and breach of public trust. You know what's interesting? Mayorkas would be the second cabinet secretary in the U.S. history to be impeached, and the first since Secretary of War William Belknap in 1876. The first article says Mayorkas chose not to enforce the law, specifically a requirement that asylum seekers who illegally cross the border shall be detained until there is a decision on their status, with release into the U.S. interior only allowed on a case-by-case basis. Mayorkas said this month that 85% of migrants who illegally enter the U.S. are being released to wait decisions. That figure is in addition to a separate program created last year that allows 30,000 asylum seekers per month from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to enter the country through legal ports of entry to await case decisions. The second article of impeachment accuses Mayorkas of lying to Congress about the border being secure and failing to comply with document requests. Now, the House Homeland Security Committee is expected to approve the charges at a Tuesday hearing, and House Speaker Mike Johnson vowed Friday to hold a floor vote as soon as possible. Now, we also have, how am I doing? Okay, we're doing good. There's a piece by Stephen Groves that while President Biden embraces this new border bill as we talk about the border, Speaker Johnson suggests it's dead on arrival. Joe Biden on Friday pressed Congress to embrace a bipartisan Senate deal to pair border enforcement measures with Ukraine aid. But House Speaker Mike Johnson suggested the compromise on border and immigration policy could be, quote, dead on arrival in his chamber. The Democrat president said in a statement late Friday that the policies proposed would be the toughest and fairest set of reforms to secure the border we've ever had in our country. Now, Miranda Devine, I know I'm running kind of quick here, folks, because I don't want to run late, and we have so much more to get to. But Miranda Devine has a piece at the New York Post this morning, and Joe Biden now doing what he does best, weaseling out of the blame for the U.S. border crisis. This again, Miranda Devine. For 3 years, Joe Biden and his repulsive Homeland Security Chief Mayorkas have encouraged the third world to enter America illegally, says Miranda Devine. At least 8 million have answered their siren song. Only now, that the sheer number of illegal aliens causing mayhem and busting budgets in Democrat cities like New York have become an election liability, has Biden had an epiphany. Yes, you start to see a lot of Democrats come out who were very supportive of Biden's plans and measures when it came to the border. But now that the polls show that the number one issue, even over the economy, that concerns voters is illegal immigration. We're going to talk a little bit more about this when we come back. Then we're going to wrap up on a bunch of different things. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting live from the Hasselson studio. So, as Miranda Devine said in her piece, the president claims he needs Republicans in Congress to give him the, quote, authority to shut down the border when it becomes overwhelmed. I would use it the day I sign the bill into law. But he already has that authority, is what Miranda Devine argues. He could shut down the border today. He has spent 3 years lying that the border is secure, and now he's lying that he needs new laws to secure it. He could stop suing Texas to prevent Governor Greg Abbott from sealing his border with Mexico, for starters. He signed 94 executive actions in the first 100 days to dismantle Trump-era border protections. He could reinstate them with a stroke of a pen. So you can find that full piece at the New York Post. But yes, it's becoming poison when it comes to the election. When you have Democrats speaking out against the open, porous borders because they realize it's going to cost them votes. Everyone knows what Biden has done. We see it in overwhelmed hospitals and schools, shattered budgets, crime and disorder, and the sheer unfairness of illegal aliens living high on the hog in flashy Manhattan hotels while American veterans sleep on the street. Voters will not forget, says Miranda Devine. All right, we've got to take our last break. Then we're going to wrap things up here on Frankly Speaking. A couple New York issues, just a couple weird things to get to. So I hope that you'll, not weird, but things that maybe we don't need to spend a lot of time on, but definitely worth mentioning. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. And we are back, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to all the people that sent their virtual waves in this morning. I really appreciate it. So Gillibrand and Jerry Nadler are calling on Attorney General Garland and the DEA to scrap federal laws that are targeting marijuana. U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand called on the Biden administration to ease up on the federal prohibition on weed, arguing the current laws dating back to the 70s have torn apart too many lives. The New York Democrat, along with Representative Jerry Nadler and several state lawmakers, urged Attorney General Merrick Garland and the Drug Enforcement Administration to deschedule cannabis on a national level, pointing out that the drug is right now in the same classification as heroin and is in a more dangerous category than fentanyl and cocaine. Quote, I think it's clear it's time to legalize marijuana and expunge nonviolent marijuana convictions, Gillibrand said. She said she plans on sending a new letter about the issue to the Department of Justice and the DEA on Monday in hopes it'll turn up the heat. I've been pushing this now for 4 years, and there's no excuses left. Also on that, I know we've talked about this a lot, this Office of Cannabis Management. So there's thousands of these illegal cannabis dispensaries, especially in the city. I saw that one piece by the New York Post where there was 30 illegal stores on the block where there was one legal store. They are operating throughout New York State, the illegal stores. The I-Team has learned that the Office of Cannabis Management employs just 14 investigators tasked with not only trying to flush out the illegal places, but also ensuring those with proper licenses are operating by the book. And we've said in the past, I know we had Sheriff Allard on not that long ago, he said, just let me do it. Let me enforce it. But they want the power, and it really does become more of a PR move. If you've ever seen one of these busts, it's more about getting the sign up in the window and getting the pictures in the news. But only 14, and listen, I'm never going to call for more bureaucracy and more government employees, but just 14 investigators. That's not nearly enough even for a place like our area, in rural areas, let alone in the city where it's become such an issue. Speaking of New York issues, the editorial board at, it does not say, it was on Empire Report this morning, and it was about something we've discussed a lot on this program, which is retail theft and shoplifting in general, that is causing businesses to close their doors. It's causing businesses to not come here. The rash of retail theft that emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic and has lingered since then is a likely cost of headache for store owners and customers alike. It underlines the importance of dealing with small crimes as well as major felonies. And they really don't talk about it as much as they should, but you have to have some teeth behind these laws. I know Governor Hochul is seeing a real issue here, an election issue. So she's trying to crack down on shoplifting, but not punish those that are caught. These increased efforts must give us more data about the extent of this problem and a better idea of how to combat it. How many of these smash and grab offenders escape prosecution? How many are first-time youthful offenders who might need intervention and diversion measures to get on the right track? But organized gangs should be hit hard. Ignoring small crimes invariably opens a door to bigger ones. Well, we are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Boy, that went fast, and we covered a lot, if I do say so myself. We just don't have time to get to the rest of it. Thank you again to Buddy Cutler and Stu Samus for being on the program this morning. Really appreciate it. They're from the Rotary Club of Corning, and they're hosting the annual Groundhog Day Pancake Supper. They said they've been doing this for, 7 years now? It's on Thursday, February 1st at the American Legion in Corning, and the event supports the Rotary Club Scholarship Program. The event also benefits the American Legion Post through the rental of the location. So don't miss that. Got my stomach growling talking to those guys this morning. Well, that does it for us today. Make sure you tune in every weekday morning starting at 7 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already. Have a great day, everyone.
Attention, if you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and now have uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call now to see if you qualify. There's no fee unless we win your case.
Spectrum brings you our best deal to start the new year. Now you can get unlimited mobile for $15 per line. Switch to Spectrum Mobile Unlimited for just $15 per line with no added taxes or hidden fees.